Nicholas, our granddaughter, the child is absolutely healthy and normal. Natalia. It was on a dark and rainy night in Lilleford, Hungary, when Nicholas Kovac and his wife, Joanna, held their granddaughter for the first time. The last memory of their only daughter, Emilia, who had passed away. They were grieved by her death. The only source of solace they found was in Natalia, the happiness of their lives. This granddaughter of theirs was very close to their heart. They raised her with love and care, and Natalia was growing up to be just as beautiful as her mother. And like her mother, she was a little more close to her grandfather. From a very young age, Natalia accompanied him on his morning walks down the forest, just like Nicholas had once done with Emilia. It seemed Natalia was growing up faster than ever. But it was one day, when Nicholas was waiting for his granddaughter to join him, he was informed that Natalia had fallen ill. So he rushed to her room, but it was empty. "Grita, where is Natalia and Joanna?" "Master, Natalia wished to stay in her mother's room from now on, so Lady Joanna has shifted her there." Nicholas rushed down the halls to find them. When he found Natalia laying in bed and Joanna sitting beside her, upon seeing him, she stepped out. "Joanna, what happened? Is she all right? Do we need to call a doctor?" "Calm down, Nicholas. She's become a woman." "What? She's already become a woman? It was just the other day I was teaching her how to walk." "You've lost track of time. Natalia is 11 years old, Nicholas." After Natalia became of age, she wanted to move from her old nursery her grandparents had built for her and finally move to her mother's room. Growing up, she had always had so many questions about her mother, about her father. She was amazed by all the portraits in the palace of her mother. She was the most beautiful woman in all of Lilleford. But as for her father, Natalia had never seen a portrait of him or heard about him, but she was awfully curious. Laying in her mother's bed, she stared out at the full moon in the night skies. As a cool breeze flew in through the balcony, she closed her eyes and soon fell asleep. But sometime late that night, Natalia began to feel anxious. She clutched her fists, tossing and turning, as she saw something in the shadows. A creature grasped onto something before it feasted upon him. Her heart raced as she heard the trickling blood. All of a sudden, she saw a figure emerge from the shadows. A man wearing a long black leather coat, staring back at her. Natalia woke up frightened. She sat up in her room. Her skin had become cold and frigid. She began to hear footsteps running down the hall. It was her grandmother. "Natalia, sweetheart, are you okay? I heard noises from here." "I had a very bad dream, grandmother." Joanna laid Natalia down again. "It's all right. Try to rest." Natalia had managed to fall asleep that night, but she couldn't forget the strange dream. The following morning, she woke up to the rain pouring heavily outside. But even in this weather, a messenger had arrived from the village. "How is everything, David?" "Not well, Sir Kovac. Last night a man from the village has passed away. It wasn't a natural death. His body was found in a horrible state. His skin had turned pale, not a drop of blood left in him. Everyone is saying he was attacked by the creature." When Nicholas got news of the strange occurrence in the village, he was distraught. He hadn't heard anything like this happen in a long time. He stayed in his study, listening to the droplets of rain, pondering about what happened, when suddenly he heard a knock on his door sometime in the evening. It was Natalia. "Grandfather, may I talk with you?" "Yes, Natalia, come in." Natalia walked inside, sitting opposite to her grandfather by the fireplace. "May I ask you something?" "Of course, Natalia. What is wrong? You look a bit tensed." "It's about my parents. There are so many portraits of my mother in this palace, but not a single portrait of my father. No one tells me anything about my father. Why?" Nicholas smiled at his granddaughter. "You've grown up to be beautiful like your mother. Just like her, you're the life of this palace." But she was really hyper. She was a lady who wanted to go out for a hunt with me. She could never stop doing this and that. But you, my dear, are quiet and calm and well-mannered, just like your father. He was a shining knight. He was a very brave and courageous warrior, but he was also a shy man. So he never had any portraits made of him. Sadly, he passed away whilst fighting for his people, for the people of this village. Grandfather, last night, I saw a very frightening dream. I saw something in the shadows, a creature, and I saw a man. He was wearing a long leather coat, and he was smiling at me. I was wondering if that man I saw was my father. Natalia, dreams are just dreams. It was nothing. Perhaps you had seen someone at the marketplace and got scared. Don't worry about it, dear. Okay, grandfather, I'll take leave. After Natalia took leave, Nicholas immediately went to his wife. Joanna, you told me she had a bad dream, but you didn't tell me she saw this. What did she see? She didn't tell me anything. I just heard her scream and went to help her. She saw... This isn't good, Joanna. Have one of the servants guard her room from outside the balcony from now on. The following evening, when Hannah, one of the servants, arrived in Natalia's room with a lantern, she was confused. What are you doing here, Hannah? Master Kovac has ordered me to guard your room. All right, come in. The next few weeks went by, and Natalia didn't experience any nightmares. But around the same time, the following month, on the night of the full moon, she saw him again. She woke up early that dawn, petrified. When she went out to the balcony, she found it empty. Where was Hannah? Natalia inquired about her, but the other servants hadn't seen her. She immediately went to her grandmother, who had the entire palace searched. But it was as if Hannah had disappeared. And if everyone in the palace wasn't concerned enough, late in the afternoon, the messenger from the village returned with news of another mysterious death. Natalia sat in her room feeling anxious. What was going on? Why was she having these dreams? Who was this man she saw? And why did it feel like everyone was hiding something from her? That evening, she stormed out of the room searching for her grandparents until she found them in the drawing room whispering something amongst each other. Grandfather, you have to tell me what is going on. Last time I had that bad dream, we got news of someone's death from the village, and this month, again. Why am I seeing these dreams? And what happened to Hannah? Where is she? Nicholas and Joanna passed each other a glance. They knew it was time. Why are you two quiet? Why are you two not telling me? Natalia, calm down. But before I tell you, know that we have only wanted to keep you safe. From what, grandfather? From the past. It all happened 2 years before your birth. This village was not like how you see it today. People were suffering. People were dying every night, becoming prey to a vicious creature. Their bodies were found in a shriveled up state, devoid of blood. This creature remained hidden in this village. Night after night, feasting on innocent lives, people were frightened. They wanted help. It was at that time that I put out an offer. Anyone who can free this village of this curse, I shall give my daughter in marriage to him. I will go. It was a man named Dominic Mizarosh who had come forth and took it upon himself. Dominic had seen your mother before at a dinner party at our palace where many esteemed officials had come. He had caught feelings for Emilia. And when I put out the offer, he became desperate that someone else may go to hunt down the creature and take Emilia as his reward. He couldn't accept to see Emilia with anyone else. So he took up his sword and left for the forests of Lillaford. Dominic was known to be brave and lived up to his name and successfully hunted down the creature. But when he returned to the village, he was not like what he used to be. His skin was pale, as if drained from all life. He had always been a quiet person, keeping to himself, but after he returned, it was as if he had isolated himself from everyone. Soon after, he visited me to claim his reward. You promised me the hand of your daughter. Dominic, you freed this village. You liberated the people from this dark shadow, but you brought the shadow upon yourself. I knew Dominic wasn't the man he used to be, and I couldn't trust my daughter to him. I feared that he might have retaliated when I refused, but Dominic said nothing and left in peace. However, it was later that night, in the silent palace, that I heard a piercing scream from Emilia's room. I took my sword and ran to see the matter, when I saw Emilia frightened, cowering on her bed, and Dominic standing there beside her. "Get away from my daughter!" In a rage, I went to take his life. But Dominic jumped out and vanished in thin air. Since that day, I had arranged for better security in the palace. I sent men out in search for Dominic. It was as if he had gone missing. Fortunately, Emilia was unharmed. But it was soon after that her health started to worsen. What has happened to her? Nicholas, she's pregnant. When I found out what Dominic had done to my daughter, I was devastated. But I tried to console her and protect her from humiliation. I went to the village head and spoke to him to declare that I had secretly wedded Dominic and Emilia before he had left, and Dominic had died whilst hunting down the creature. But Emilia was not like herself anymore. She was no longer the happy, jolly woman she used to be. "Daughter, don't worry, everything will be fine. It wasn't your fault. Don't take this upon yourself." But as the days passed, Emilia's condition worsened. She began having nightmares. I could hear her crying for hours at night. "Mother, I can't take this anymore. I can see him in my dreams." It shattered me to see her like that and be so helpless. As the pregnancy advanced, Emilia began staying locked up in her room. She stopped eating, she began to lose weight and became emaciated. "Nicholas, she hasn't eaten anything in days. Maybe she's having a craving for something else. Thirst for..." "What? What do you mean she's having a craving for something else? Don't speak nonsense, Joanna." Things continued on like this until one day, we found Emilia lifeless in her room. She had taken her own life, but the child in her room was still alive. It was that dark, raining night that you were born into this world. You had a strong soul, for if this had happened to anyone else, they wouldn't have survived. Natalia looked at her grandfather in shock. "Then, what am I?" "You're my granddaughter. You're our happiness. You're the life of this palace." No, I'm not a human. I've done horrendous things." When Natalia learned of her parents, she suddenly came to realize something she hadn't before. The dreams she was having, the man she had been seeing, it was her father. But the creature in the shadows was none other than herself. It was in her blood, and it was when she had reached womanhood that the urges overtook her. The first month, on the night of the full moon, it was she who had left the palace and gone to the village to satisfy her hunger, her craving. However, unaware of her past, she was not in her senses. But this time, when she left the palace, she had left in front of Hannah, who had seen her in that state and fled from the palace in fear. Natalia stepped back towards the balcony, seeing her grandparents look at her in worry. "I can't stay with you after what I've done." "No, Natalia, don't do this. You didn't do anything wrong." "Natalia, please. I already lost your mother. Please don't make me go through this again. I lost her. I don't want to lose you." But before Nicholas could stop Natalia, she ran towards the balcony and jumped out. It was late that night. Hannah reached the village, breathless as she knocked on the door of the church, soaking in the rain. She was relieved to see Father Victor Horvath open the door, the only person who could save them. "You're here at this time? Come inside. What has happened?" "My name is Hannah. I used to work as a servant for the Kovac. I had to flee from there, and I can't go back. Nicholas Kovac's granddaughter. She's no human. She's not a vampire. She's something else." You found the one. Hello, Father. Click on the subscribe button and check out more awesome videos on our channel. And don't forget to press the bell icon because you know it's interesting.